Welcome back to our community. Susie Thomas visiting with Bay McFarland of Mary's Advocates this morning. Okay, you left us with, you had presented this simple card that explained Ohio law to people at the courthouse who were checking into divorce, let's say, really describing things that most people, I'm going to guess, don't know until you're coming along and educating them on it. What was the response for this, Bay?
Well, after I went there with no appointments or anything, just to learn what I needed to do, I wrote a very formal letter to the court administrator, and I explained, I'm a nonprofit educational organization. You've got this help desk for people who want to know more information. I would imagine the people who are going there are defendants in divorce, or maybe someone who's a plaintiff who wants to know how you do it. And on my letter, I explained to him, here are 3 reasons why these laws would actually be an alternative remedy helping the courthouse reduce tax dollars payments to all these people who are servants of the state that work for us. And one of the things I said about marital abandonment is a first-degree misdemeanor. So rather than someone who's a defendant in a divorce trying to deal with a divorce court to solve their issue, they have the option of going to criminal court and seeing if they can get any kind of remedy in criminal court. And then the other one is a spouse can get financial help in labor for a third party. And if someone thinks the only way I can get money after my abandoner left was to go to divorce court, the court might be pleased to know, we don't have to deal with this. We don't have to put this in our jurisdiction. You can just go to common pleas court and deal with your financial needs and your necessaries through something that's simpler, so we don't have to be making decisions and orders about children and visitation and all these other things that get complex in divorce court. I mean, I'm thinking if I'm a court administrator, what's wrong with all this? It gives us less work to do. And then the third one on this card is that denying incompatibility means there's no grounds for divorce.
Right.
So if you have one party saying we're incompatible and the other party saying no, the case should be dismissed.
Yes.
I wrote this up in a letter, and then about a week later, I went down to the courthouse with a small letter that I had about 80 copies of. I was distributing it to the employees of the courthouse because I'm scratching my head wondering, well, who's going to be rubbing shoulders with people? I want to start a rumor. I want to start a good rumor about this good information,
you
the
mean,
good news.
Is this true?
This is good news
yes.
about Ohio law that's more family-friendly than people know.
Really? Yes.
So I was just delivering these envelopes to lots of people at the courthouse. I had a rubber-banded pack with like 5 magistrates that work in the same section. I go to the person who's closest to the door. I say, hey, I'm hand-delivering these instead of going through the mail. Can you help me? No problem. As I'm getting ready to leave, a lady is following me in the hallway, and she says, oh, ho, my boss wants to talk to you. I'm like, I'm already late. I don't have time. My phone number is on the information I left. And I got a voicemail from him, which was pretty harsh. He was ending by saying that I will have the sheriffs remove me from the courthouse if I disrupt the workflow. He wants to know what my intentions were. He said he figured that I wasn't going to be answering the phone, though I was still in the building. He kind of had a flippant tone. And he understood that I'm distributing information and I don't have permission to be distributing it.
You were asking for permission.
I know. Well, I ended up having a phone call with the man the next day.
Yes.
Somebody had given him the impression that I was disrupting workflow, but I wasn't.
No.
I was just delivering envelopes.
Yes.
And he says there are times, and he did say, we want you to know that you don't have permission to distribute your 3x5 card, but on my note to the employees, I just said I had asked the court administrator to distribute my 3x5 card.
And are they not making this information available in other ways? It sounds like they are not.
All I know is from the people I've talked to that have gone through no-fault divorce in Ohio, nobody is saying that abandonment is a crime and people are signing things that they didn't have to sign. I have been making phone calls talking to police officers and talking to prosecutors, asking what would happen if a wife went to the police and said, help, my husband's abandoning me. He's committing the crime of abandonment, first-degree misdemeanor.
Yes.
And I've gotten various response from prosecutors ranging from, I've never heard of that, I would have to look it up and see the case law, to someone else saying, I would never penalize anyone for that. I would never do that.
Well, but what they feel doesn't matter, really. What they are called to do is uphold the law.
And I've heard lawyers making an analogy between this law and other laws that have been on the books for a long time that really should be dropped. Like, it's against the law to spit on the sidewalk.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Well,
against the law to have an open container of alcohol. So if you're at a block party and you're talking to your neighbor on the sidewalk, you're breaking the law.
And they're throwing this in with that.
this
with silly laws that are on the books.
Right. Well, if you're someone who has the
Not
mind,
that open alcohol is a silly law, but there's spitting on the sidewalk.
right, spitting on the sidewalk,
yes.
and I come back and wonder, well, what are the ramifications of someone spitting on the sidewalk? Really?
Mm-hmm.
What are the ramifications for innocent children when
Yes.
one parent reneges on the contractual obligation they consented to before the children were even conceived? This is a lifelong issue.
Mm-hmm. I bet your husband did not expect you to have this reaction. I'm thinking the last thing he expected was for you to become an activist in favor of the family and change all these lives that you are now changing. And I have to say that where most women probably would say, okay, my next act is to get a lawyer and really sock it to you. We're not talking about necessities. We're talking about you will be in pain financially for the rest of your days, and I will see to that. Instead, you may continue to wear your wedding ring. Please explain.
Because I married as Jesus described marriage, what the civil forum does is irrelevant. I consider myself separated, and in the civil world, they think I'm divorced, but that has nothing to do with anything. I'm either really married or I'm not. And Scripture teaches us when Jesus was on that cross, he says, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they're doing. And from the research I've done from those who do have experience helping couples, there's Greg and Julie Alexander to run this outfit, the Alexander House, and they do marriage coaching. Mm-hmm. And they say it's not that the person filing for divorce really wants the divorce. They just want to be happy. And there's another guy, Dr. Richard Fitzgibbons, that runs the Institute of Marital Healing. Because of the internet now, he can do Skyping with people or phone counseling. So even though he's in Pennsylvania, he works with clients everywhere. And he says in 40 years of experience, he has never worked with a couple where both parties wanted the divorce. And then he says one person wants it and the other person is confident that whatever the problem is can be resolved. Mm-hmm. And he also says, as a psychologist, what he concludes is the people who want the divorce are not working on their own issues. There's something driving them, some kind of pride, some kind of insecurity, some kind of sloth, some kind of something. They're not reaching the dignity that Jesus designed them to have. Mm.
Let's talk about that heart. We've talked about the heart of the hurt person being abandoned. Let's talk about the heart of the abandoner. Is there some kind of thread that, you hear midlife crisis, everything gets blamed on midlife crisis. Is there a thread that goes from case to case, or is each one different?
I talk to people who are defendants, so anything I know about the plaintiff is just secondhand information. But the pattern that I see is they demonize the defendant. For whatever reason, the defendant who didn't want a divorce has to be really, really bad. So minimal problems that, I'm no perfect saint. Nobody's a perfect saint. We're all sinners. I'm sure there's things I did that my friends know, my siblings know, my husband knows, are annoying, are obnoxious, whatever. But I am trying to grow. Mm-hmm. But one pattern I see in the plaintiffs who ask for divorce is they blame the other person terribly. And what Dr. Richard Fitzgibbons says is they're not working on their own issues, and they blame the other party for what he called psychological abuse. It's mental abuse. So it becomes this amorphous, undefined, you can't nail it, you can't know what it is, you can't even defend against it because you don't know what it is. So I'm connected with a network of people who remain faithful even though we're separated and divorced. And our position is we're going to hang in there. We're going to keep praying for the person who thinks that divorce is a solution to their unhappiness. And we can't really know or control or understand exactly what's going on with them. It's more a matter of just being patient and praying. And in the Protestant world, there's a woman, Steinkamp Rejoice Ministries, and she's all about supporting people from all sorts of faith groups who do this. And she sends out an encouraging letter, and she's got story after story of people after divorce, even after adultery, even after second supposed marriages, they end up going back to their original spouse. See, that's the hope that I'm holding on to.
Through this praying wife.
Yeah.
You continue to be a faithful, praying wife for your spouse.
The other benefit of it, there's a guy, George, that runs our monthly conference call that's publicized from Mary's Advocates. He says the reason he's remaining faithful is that he wants to teach his daughters what Jesus' love is like. Because Jesus' love is faithful even though he was sent to the civil forum to be crucified. Mm-hmm. So if we want our young people to turn around this divorce plague, are they going to learn about love when mommy and daddy hate each other, go find a new mommy and daddy, a stepmommy and daddy, and it just keeps going on and on and on? But I think of George, it's like, wow. His daughters know.
Well, and Bay, you're quite an example yourself. You've been praying now 13 years, did you say?
He left in 2003, so it's been 13, 14. It'll long time.
That's quite an example for your own children. What do you see their response to your response being?
Well, when they were really little, when mommy and daddy don't agree on how to cut the children in half, and one party like me just says, I can't sign something that's horrible, because most divorces happen when you just sign and you agree to how you're going to split everything up. I really couldn't do that. To me, it would be just denying every cell in my body to agree to a divorce and a separation because there was no reason for it. They get in a court psychologist, and our youngest son was 4 at the time, and we were in the court psychologist room, and he had been taken away from me as stay-at-home mom, and he was in daycare. And I asked him, would you rather be with mommy, daddy, or daycare during the day? And he said he'd rather be with mommy. Mm-hmm. And I wanted the court psychologist to understand what was going on in the hearts of our children.
Right.
So I asked him, well, he said he'd rather be with mommy, and I asked him, well, why aren't you with mommy anymore? And he said, because daddy broke the family.
And this was not coached. This was his words, his heart pouring out.
No, it definitely wasn't coached. I mean, if my husband was locking my children in the closet and, putting boiling water on their feet, I would say what daddy's doing is not God's plan for you.
Yeah.
You deserve blah, blah, blah. So when daddy leaves the house and I'm saying to my children, I want my children to appreciate God's plan for marriage,
yes.
I would just naturally, I was a homeschooling mom.
Sure.
This has nothing to do with daddy's evil. It's just, God's plan for marriage is that mommies and daddies stay together. Yes. I don't know why daddy left. I hope daddy comes back. We pray for daddy to come back.
Yes.
So he said...
It seems pretty benign and pretty innocent.
Well, when he said that, the court psychologist ended up writing me up, and she complained that she was frightened for me to be alone with my children because I was indoctrinating them with bad things about their father. And in civil court, if you're the person who's upholding your original intentions in marriage, they do not like you.
Wow. Wow. That's stunning as well.
People didn't know. You don't know unless...
Ohio is very, as far as the law, Ohio is very pro-family, but it seems like some of those upholding the law or where it is their business to uphold the law might not be as informed.
We can't... That's my hope. My hope is they're just not informed. My fear is that they're in collusion and they make lots and lots of money when they have mommies and daddies fighting against each other.
We're out of time. I knew this would happen. Bay McFarland, thank you so much. If you would like to know more, be sure to go to profamiliesohio.com. They need money, and there's a way to be able to support this organization. Also, you can find out about a new initiative, a solemn covenant marriage. Every family should do it. Every couple should do it, entering into a marriage. Bay McFarland, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us on Our Community.